Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am here in lockdown Boulder Creek, California. I am joined this afternoon by my good friend Jason Carney. Jason, how are you, brother?
Great. How are you?
You know what, man? I feel like it's been a productive day. I got a fairly lengthy stream in this morning. Talked to the gentleman involved in the Embassy Protectors documentary. I did a Patreon only stream with the fantastic Sam Tripoli, and now here we are to kind of go over exactly how hard we're getting fucked by our government via this stimulus bill. Um, it did get signed today. President Trump did a signing ceremony where he thanked both Republicans and Democrats and didn't invite a single Democrat into the room for the signing because, why not be petty? I guess if you're gonna go big, go big. But we're gonna kind of dive into what is actually in the bill because it hasn't been all that clear. If you want to give kind of a breakdown of how you see it, and then we'll pull up some text and show the folks at home.
We're looking at essentially 2.2 trillion, which is going to be 9% of the GDP. It's the third largest expenditure right now on the books. Obviously, the highest is our federal government spending. The second one would be our Department of Defense, and then this comes in a very close third. It essentially what it does for you and I, and I want to touch on this because it doesn't do it for everybody, but people like ourselves. It gives cash payments up to $1,200 for individuals, $2,400 for couples, $500 per child, and that's a nice little quagmire in and of itself, the child component. And it's reduced if an individual makes more than $75,000 or a couple makes more than $150,000. I think when you hit the $99,000 threshold, you don't have any money coming in whatsoever. Why I want to touch on that real quick is there's the homeless. And before anybody goes, the homeless don't pay taxes. Yes, they do. There are people who work, they just can't afford a place to live, and they pay their taxes. And those who are poverty level, who couldn't afford to spend the extra 45, 90, 100, 150 bucks, depending on what tax place you go through to file their taxes, they're not going to get this benefit. And these people they are just as hardworking, and they're not going to get a benefit from this. And then with the child aspect, I think you could dive into this more, Steve, but it's a complicated, nice little convoluted exercise there. There's a $350 billion fund for small businesses to mitigate layoffs and support payroll. But if we all remember the last go around, for example, United Airlines, who was bailed out by big government, they were forced to promise not to lose any of their staff, and yet today what we're seeing is people are being laid off from United. So I have absolutely no faith in this $350 billion going toward the workers, but it does go to small business owners. There's $500 billion available to the Treasury Department to make loans, loan guarantees, and investments to or in industries damaged by this pandemic. And using that umbrella term, that could be anybody from Boeing, it could be McDonald's, it could be anywhere. And they set, and that's the biggest chunk of this stimulus package. That is the largest chunk. It goes to big businesses. It goes to corporate America. That is one huge issue there. And it requires that the recipients of the loans do not buy back stock during that time the loan is outstanding. And that executives or employees who made more than $425,000 in 2019 do not get a raise for the next 2 years. These people they're living in the top 1%. They can do without a raise for 2 years. And the most frustrating aspect is this is a free for all by Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Department, and Trump, a giveaway of our tax dollars. And we're supposed to feel good about $1,200, which in the state of California doesn't cover rent for a one-bedroom apartment. But hey, that's cool. That's fine. It requires group health plans and insurance providers to cover without cost sharing any coronavirus preventative services. We're having people be turned away with symptoms of the coronavirus. And yet we're having healthcare coverage that's not supposed to be denied to them. So that makes it a nice little complicated, convoluted mess. An employee retention tax credit, so we're incentivizing keeping people working. Thank you, corporate America. 240 billion in healthcare relief. Finally, that's extra hospital beds, ventilators, things of that nature. 75 billion in aid for hospitals also falls within those parameters. 20 billion for healthcare for veterans. 20 billion for emergency public transportation relief, which is under an incredible amount of strain. 10 billion for airport relief, 4.5 billion for CDC and prevention. Holy shit, they actually get some money. 50 billion relief to airlines in the form of loans, grants, and other 8 billion. And when I say grants, that means you never have to pay it back. This is me handing money to you. Bye-bye. Have a nice life. That's what, sorry, that's some of my frustration when we're looking at this bill. And it's supposed, and the one positive was it strengthened unemployment insurance, which could potentially add $600 per week for up to 4 months on top of what you get from the state. Every state it varies. It could be 60% of your paycheck, 75% of your paycheck, 80% of your paycheck. But this puts you at or a little bit above what you were making per week. That is one of the upsides. But the part that bothers me is 500 billion in a giveaway to corporate America. And after going through this, I would love to hear your thoughts, Steve.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with Steve Mnuchin becoming one of the most powerful people in the country right now. This is a criminal who, while at the head of One West Bank, was involved in just a sea of foreclosures. Um, and didn't even get a slap on the wrist. In fact, Kamala Harris, who was Attorney General at the time, is on video saying, "Oh, well, you know, we go after the low-level offenses because white-collar crime's a lot of paperwork, and who likes paperwork? Am I right? Am I right?" And like, she's on video saying this shit. Mnuchin famously donated 50 grand to her campaign as kind of like a, "Hey, thanks, buddy. Good looking out." Um, 500 billion to corporate America. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it if they can't buy their own stock back, but I know it's not going to be to increase the pay of their employees. I know it's not going to be to reinvest in their businesses. And I know it's not going to be to make sure that all of their employees have a comprehensive health care plan. Real quick, Rob Juno, thank you very much, brother, for the super chat. Much love. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and pull up some of the text of this mess so that we can kind of take a look-see at it. And I'm going to start with the direct appropriations because that's what we were discussing here. So in general, there's appropriated out of amounts of the Treasury not otherwise appropriated for the fiscal year September 2020 through September 2021. $299,400,000,000 under the heading Small Business Administration Business Loans Program Account for the cost of guaranteed loans under Section A of the Small Business Act. Does it sound like a loan is any kind of a direct payment that is going to help people through this mess, Jason?
Not at all. Not at all. Again, it sounds like a giveaway by the corporatist party, and I don't have to tell you which one that is. That's both of them.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're just handing our tax dollars. They're handing our tax dollars out the window.
300 million under the heading Small Business Administration Salaries and Expenses for salaries and expenses of the administration. So, okay, here's the thing, and this is something that I think people need to be aware of before I go back to the screen. Um, there are a lot of steps you have to take to be a qualified small business in this country. And if you're going to be a part of the Small Business Administration, um, you've got to, first of all, this only applies to companies that have like 50 or between 50 to 500 employees.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't your mom and pop shop that has like, there's a couple that owns a restaurant and then they've got maybe a total of a dozen employees. They're not being considered in any of this. Small businesses in the United States are actually relatively large businesses. Um, so right off the bat, a lot of people are getting left out of this thing. In terms of who's eligible for the check, you have to be on direct deposit with the IRS if you want to get it any kind of quickly. I think is what I'm going for there. Nobody's
Right.
going to see a dime of this shit until May anyway.
Right.
But if you want to see it at the beginning of May, you better as fuck have direct deposit with the IRS if you're going to get your $1,200 check. If you didn't file taxes in 2018, you're not eligible for this. If you have a kid and you're in a co-parenting situation and you let your ex claim the kid in 2018, there's a lot of people that alternate years on their taxes. Yeah. Which, I mean, common practice, nice practice, something that like relatively grown up people can figure out on their
Right.
own without the help courts usually. But if 2018 wasn't your year, then you don't have that $500. The idea that a $2.2 trillion was enough is ridiculous. The idea that only 250 billion of that is going to be allocated to the 327 million people that live in this country is pretty fucking gross. And that only 150,000 people are registered as workers with the IRS. Right off the bat, you know that there are a lot of people that are going to be left out in the cold as a result of this. I'm going to go ahead and squawk at us a little bit, Jay, and I'm going to try and find the thing that I was looking at just before we went on.
It sounds good. I agree that the government needed to do something to stem this pandemic. People are literally at home, they're furloughed, they're laid off, they can't make ends meet, and they do need help, and it's their money. When you pay taxes, that's our money. We all earn that money, and we're paying it toward the government to come up with a common agreement that this is needed to make things go, to make the streets work, to make the police departments work, the fire department, etc. I don't need to get into taxes 101, but it's our money. And we're being told by this Congress, by both Republicans and Democrats, let me be abundantly clear. I'm not saying one is worse than the other. I'm saying by both parties. And I'll give Nancy Pelosi a little bit of credit on this. She wanted to see 1,500 per person, and I believe it was 1,500 per child. So I'll give her a little bit of credit for that, but it's as though we're asking mom and dad for money that we already earned. I think that's the biggest insult. And the largest portion of it is going to corporate America, which sucks up our labor and our money. And they get the biggest chunk of this. And to me, that's the most perplexing part where people are excited about this. Does a one-time check for Canada, for example, Justin Trudeau, no big fan of that neoliberal, but he's saying during the coronavirus epidemic, $2,000 a month are going to every Canadian a month, not a one-time shot. 2,000 a month. That's going to go real far. On top of the fact that they already have a nationalized healthcare system, and they have other aspects that actually take care of their people. If you look across Europe, you're seeing other stimulus packages that are being more pro people than corporations. In the United States, it's like we take a gun and a big gun, that Desert Eagle 50 caliber one, and we just go like this, And we go, I wonder what would happen if I pointed this at my foot and fired at close range. I'm curious because we keep handing money to corporations that have no interest in taking care of us. United, I touched on this earlier, had to, by the terms of the bailout, not lay anybody off. That's how they got our money, our tax dollars. And yet today, United is laying off employees. There's people, and I get to a certain extent before I sound like a radical socialist because I am. I get that small business and corporations are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. I get that. People have to be in restaurants, people have to be in stores, people have to be traveling, things of that nature, so that these services and products can be used. But at the end of the day, it should be about the people who are suffering, who have to worry about rent, who have to worry about eating, who have to worry about so many other things, and not corporate America that has billions upon trillions in reserves for just in case these type of situations. I forget what I understand. Disney had what was it, like 500 billion or 750 billion in reserves, just sitting on it in case of a rainy day. And it's absolutely insane. These companies do not need our tax dollars. The American people need these tax dollars. And I'm looking that you must be a tax-paying American with a Social Security number over 18 years old. You must currently be employed. That's a stack of horse shit. You must not have earned more than 950,000 in taxable income for the year of 2019. If spouses file together, only one needs to be employed for both to receive checks. I've got issue with that because what if you lost your job February 1st? You were a tax-paying citizen
Right?
as of last year. You paid your taxes. Why are we begging this government for our money? Why are we begging the two corporatist parties for our money? And why are they handing it away to corporate America in mass?
Well, and something that I'm looking at right now, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. Maybe you can help me go through it here a little bit. I know you don't have a lot of time with us today. Where'd you go? Boop, 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 boop. So right here, we're way
Mm-hmm.
down in the bill right now, and this is under the section of additional manufacturer reporting requirements in response to drug shortages. Now let's go ahead and talk about how weird it is that they're already pre-planning a drug shortage in this bill, yet a giant chunk of money at the top wasn't allocated to making sure that people have their medicine. You know, um, there is a subsection right here that says FOIA exemption, section 506D of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act is amended by adding at the end of the following: information provided by a manufacturer to the secretary under this section shall not be subject to disclosure under section 552 Title 5 United States Code. That means that if a miracle drug or a miracle vaccine or a mandatory vaccine is dispersed to the United States populace during this pandemic, I can't, you can't, nobody watching can submit a Freedom of Information Act request to obtain information about how it was made, where it was coming from, who it's getting distributed to, and why. Now, that scares the shit out of me because in my opinion, since finding out that Amazon and the Bill Gates Foundation have teamed up to make sure that coronavirus tests get into the home of every American, in my opinion, our ability to obtain this money going forward is going to be tied to that. Our ability to work, should they nationalize several industries and turn this into a full-blown national socialist country, that's going to be tied to whether or not you've had your coronavirus test, whether or not you've had your coronavirus vaccine, and the fact that they had the forethought to make sure that no Freedom of Information request acts could be processed that relate to this speaks to the level of nefariousness that our Congress critters operate on.
You put it succinctly right there. At the end of the day, if we are to believe that this is a natural process in which a pandemic has occurred and we are responding in time, then the Freedom of Information Act, whether it be tomorrow, a year from now, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, shouldn't be an issue. You shouldn't have enough foresight to say it's none of the public's business. How it got created, how long it's been worked on, and other methods that are used for this miracle vaccine and or drug. At the end of the day, it should be wide open to the public. If there is no nefarious thing, as you put it, nefarious intentions, then why are you already planning on denying a FOIA? It makes no sense. It just leads people to the inevitable conclusion that there is some shady shit going on. It was Donald Trump wanted to spend, what was it, $1 billion on a German company that had, and this is alleged, I use alleged, $1 billion so that the U.S. could have first dibs on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I want to thank Costello, Ed, solid guy, $5 super chat. You rock, brother. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm trying to run through. So we've still got provisions in this bill that are talking about coverage of diagnostic testing and pricing of diagnostic testing. At what point is it going to become clear to these motherfuckers that if nobody's working, if everybody's locked in their homes, and already several tens of millions of people don't have health insurance, why are they worried about the pricing of diagnostic testing? Like, is this just one more like giant cover your ass to make sure that we can keep bending over the American public and giving them a choice between going bankrupt and dying?
Let me ask you a question, Steve. When has capitalism ever been concerned for human life? When it comes to producing things, when it comes to their labor, the need for there to be people to produce their products, it's the only time capitalism has ever cared about a human being, an animal, you name it. Capitalism is the name of the game on this one. And before I jump onto my Marxist diatribe, we have to look at this from the perspective of why does it seem like the poor and the working class are pretty much cut out of this stimulus package? Why does it seem that way? Because these people have been relegated to, I forget what they call it in the Indian caste system, the undesirables or what have you. They've been
untouchables.
They've been put into that category, that they're somehow subhuman, that they don't deserve the same benefits we all receive. And it's at the end of the day, capitalism that is driving all this nonsense. You don't give away close to half of the stimulus package to corporate America because of socialism, corporate socialism for sure, but in the name of capitalism and keeping Wall Street churning and making sure that the Dow looks pretty and the NASDAQ looks pretty and the S&P looks pretty, we're handing away freaking close to $1 trillion to these imbeciles in $5,000 suits. And we're supposed to be happy about this? We're supposed to say, whoopee? We're supposed to be like, oh, hey, well, we're handing you $1 trillion. You mind hooking up the test maybe? Maybe making it easier for us to have access to tests? Maybe make it a little bit cheaper? And we handed you $1 trillion. Would you mind? And they're just going to look at us as though we have a third eye.
Speaking of third eye, I forgot to microdose today. Maybe that's why I'm cranky. I don't know. Yeah, this is emblematic of just how fucking far out of hand we as regular human beings have watched our government get. When I was talking to Sam Tripoli earlier today, which one more time, that's up on the Patreon. If you're not a patron of the show, it's patreon.com. /Slow News Day. I don't have any like tiered membership or anything like that. You don't get more content if you pay me more money. You don't get less content if you pay me less money. Um, uh, we were trying. It seems to be the theme for the day. Trying to get across to his audience exactly what fascism is, because the definition of fascism changes based on what outlet you look at or what dictionary you go to, and more often than not lately, they're trying to tie uh, racism and a bunch of other like SJW fucking buzzwords to fascism, when in fact it's the merger of corporation and state.
And
And
that, yeah,
go ahead.
that's the heart of it. And you could throw in xenophobia, racism, superiority when it comes to race, one feeling it's superior over others. You could throw a lot of those in, but at the base of it, at the core of it, is capitalism unbridled and unregulated and running the show. It's when corporate America is running the country, not anybody in DC, not anybody in your state legislature, not your mayor, not city council, when it's corporate America running the show. And that has to be understood because we are at the plutocracy level. We are at that crescendo. We're like this far away from being able to say that this is a fascist nation.
Well, and people need to look at it in kind of. I'm not telling you how to think. I'm telling you it might behoove you to look at our system of government this way. Um, all of us, every regular working person or unemployed person or underemployed person, we're all Johns. We're Johns, and politicians are whores. And sometimes every couple years, maybe every 4 years, we decide we want to try out a new whore, but we are solely responsible for paying these whores. Now, the whores themselves don't get all of the money. The vast majority of their money goes to their pimp. There are a handful of pimps in this country that give us different whores, but the pimps are always going to get the vast majority of the money every single time. And it doesn't matter how your whore is dressed up. It doesn't matter what kind of pillow talk you're being given. You're still being given pillow talk by a whore who has a pimp to pay.
That is, I've got my degree in political science. That is the best way I've ever heard it defined. I'm not being sarcastic. I loved every second of that. A lot of us started arguing 5 years ago. For me, it was on Twitter, Facebook. I got more involved 5 years ago, but I used to write previously to that as well, talking about the duopoly and the danger of having essentially one political party with two sides of the same coin. And we've been talking about it, and we were told that we were wrong, and we're radicals, and we're out there, and we're insane. There's no way that they're both the same type of party, the corporatist party, mind you, and there's no way that they support one another in other endeavors, and blah, 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 blah. And yet we have a guy like Joe Biden running right now saying he admired Reagan during the AIDS epidemic, in which he helped people to suffer and die that were homosexuals who had, at the time, HIV and AIDS. He was horrible during that, and Biden is looking to him lovingly about how he handled the AIDS epidemic with this current COVID-19. We have two parties that have no interest in serving us. They never have. They want to fatten their wallets, and they want to increase their power and prestige at the cost of us. And it's right there. That's the worst part. Citizen United came out, and it was right there. It smacked you right in the face. You don't matter. None of you matter. You know what matters? Boeing, uh, Facebook, name any Fortune 500 company. That is when we should have started getting the clue. Democrats weren't here to save you. Hope and change wasn't much different than compassionate conservatism, which wasn't much different than the I don't even know what the moron in the Oval Office, if he could string together a sentence, MAGA, make American great again. None of those things are really all that separate if you look at it. And take away the tribalism, take away the red sunglasses or the blue sunglasses, and just look at it. And you're like, there's not much difference from this to this to this. It's that we're getting progressively worse to a more plutocratic system, which leads to a fascistic state.
Oh, what 100%. Jason, I know you gotta wrap here and get out. I've got some shit to do as well, and I get to build like a cardboard geodesic dome with my kid. So that's
Right
gonna
on.
be fun because I mean, fuck it, why not? Um,
Yeah.
so please let the good folks know where they can find you. I'm going to link the text of the bill into the chat right now in case anybody else wants to read it and become
And
horrified by it.
please do. It's knowledge is power. The best possible thing to do is understand what's happening. That's the most dangerous thing to them is understanding what's in this bill and be able to combat it that way. I just have an article out. If you go out to my Twitter at Parum Quern, which is the agitator in Latin, Parum Quern, go ahead and go check that out. And if you have any questions or comments, or you just want to talk and call me a complete asshole, feel free to DM me. I'm very responsive. And if you're not on Patreon doing Slow News Day, what is wrong with you? This is some of the best source of independent media that you're going to find. They don't have any owners. They don't have anybody telling what they can and cannot produce. They talk about an array of topics that the mainstream media doesn't even touch on. And they have some of the best journalists out there come on this show and report what they're going through, what they're experiencing, and telling you the truth during these stories. So, Slow News Day on Patreon. That's my little rah rah right there.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Jay. And it's always good to talk to you. And I'm sure we're going to be doing this throughout our soft quarantine. Um, this channel is getting suppressed like I've never seen before. Like, I mean, I'm pretty fucking pissed about it. I'm about to take most of my content over to Rockfin and put it out through Action for Assange just because I'm fucking sick of it. However, if you feel up to it, if you support the work that we have going on here, tell your fucking friends about it. Share the links. What I found out recently is that Twitter isn't rendering the thumbnail for my clips anymore and for my live streams anymore. It's just the web address and that's it, which actually turns off a lot of people and they don't go and check it out. If you go to, I have to every single day, I resubmit the links onto my Twitter bio because by the end of the day, it takes you to a dead link. I don't show up in suggested videos. I don't show up in recommended videos. I've never been on YouTube's homepage as a suggested video. So what I'm going to ask you to do is also hit up your favorite content creators and be with larger platforms and be like, hey, get this dude on. Because for every single YouTube subscriber I get, like if I get 15, 30, or 300 in a day, YouTube will let me keep maybe 1 to 5 of them. And then everyone else is already automatically unsubscribed. It's pain in the ass. I see a lot of the same faces or a lot of the same screen names resubscribing to the show. And when that kind of shit happens to me, I don't give up. I get really fucking pissed off and I will put out more content and I will do more things on the Patreon and I will do more things over on Rockfin. So I'm not going to be deterred about it, but I'm not going to be too proud to fucking ask for a little bit of help either. So I think that's going to do it for me. I'm going to go ahead and get this video a copyright claim. And I am going to take us out to the dulcet tones of Jello Biafra in 1989. I want you to remember that that Jello did this spoken word piece in 1989, and here we are in 2020. The piece is called "Shut Up, Be Happy." I love you guys. That's going to do it for me. And this has been Slow News Day. I'm Steve Poikinen, and good luck to us all.
We interrupt this program with a special bulletin. America is now under martial law. All constitutional rights have been suspended. Stay in your home. Do not attempt to contact loved ones, insurance agents, or attorneys. Shut up. Do not attempt to think or depression may occur. Stay in your home. Curfew is at 7 p.m. sharp after work. Anyone caught outside the gates of their subdivision sectors after curfew will be shot. Remain calm. Do not panic. Your neighborhood watch officer will be by to collect urine samples in the morning. Anyone caught interfering with the collection of urine samples will be shot. Stay in your home. Remain calm. The number one enemy of progress is question. National security is more important than individual will. All sports broadcasts will proceed as normal. No more than 2 people may gather anywhere without permission. Use only the drugs prescribed by your boss or supervisor. Shut up! Be happy. Obey all orders without question. The comfort you demanded is now mandatory. Be happy. At last, everything is done for you.